Hello, hope all is well. So I thought I'd do a really quick video to show the firmware update process on the FM3. Because I think maybe some people are wondering about, well, how to do that or how best to do that, and then things to be wary about once you've done the update. So the first thing we're going to do is to go to fractalaudio.com. We're going to head to support, downloads, and the FM3. So the first thing I'd suggest doing is to check on FM3 Edit to make sure you've got the latest version. And a new version was released last week, for example, so we'll download that. You'll ask to uninstall the previous version. Yep, that's what we're going to do. We'll accept that. We get some notes, release notes for the new version of FM3 Edit, and then we can say, yep, we're going to launch this new version. So as you might have noticed, I've already loaded the firmware 8 beta, which I've done some videos on already, but now we're going to load the official new firmware, or firmware 8, the official release. So I'll let this finish, and then we'll go through the process of downloading and installing the new firmware on the unit. So now the new FM3 Edit's loaded up. As I said before, we're on the firmware 8 beta, but now we're going to load in the official release. So for that, we go to Tools, Fractal Bot, and then here we'll see that once we open this up, we'll see that a new firmware update is available. So click here for more on firmware 8, click on that. And then we get some more information on that. And then we click download here. So we get some more information on the actual update, and we'll say for firmware 8 to download. I'll just film the actual unit as well so we get an idea of what's going on. So now you'll get this message that comes up, and then you just watch the FM3 to see the progression meter on there and to see when it finishes updating. So as you can see on the device, the firmware update is complete. So what we do now is that we'll close FM3 Edit, and then we'll turn off the device. We'll wait 5 seconds, and then we'll turn it back on. So one thing to do on the device after you've done the update is to update all presets, and on the FM3 itself there's a handy utility that's on there, and I'll just show with this video how to get there. So on the unit itself, so when you're looking at the unit, you hit the E knob for setup. And when you hit that unit, you'll get to this menu. You then go down to Utilities, Enter, and then you scroll over using the page right buttons until you get to Preset. And then you have this option for Upgrade All Presets. I've done this already, so I'm not going to do it again here. But then you just push the A button, and it takes between, I guess, 8 to 15 minutes to complete. Now we'll open FM3 Edit again. We'll wait for it to read through and update the new definitions and things like that that are on the device itself. So one quick thing that I'll add that you probably noticed when we had Fractal Bot running, that it talked about a 2-part update. The dyna-cabs 1.05 update I'd already installed previously, so that was already in the unit. If that's not the case, you will have to install the dyna-cabs. Say you're updating from much earlier firmware, and when you go into Fractal Bot, that message will also appear, or you'll get a message that will appear here. I can't show this, of course, as I've already updated the dyna-cabs. So one thing I'll note is that when we have firmware updates, especially significant ones, and in this case we're getting like newer modeling, so the Cygnus X3 modeling, one thing that is advised to do is to reset your amp blocks, and it's something that is not done automatically, because when you update amp blocks, you're resetting parameters that might have been set in some of the presets that you dialed in for your amp. And I'll explain that a bit better. So, for example, I've opened this preset, and this is how the amp block looks. Obviously, I've changed some EQ and things like that. And the main thing is, if you've changed some other variables in the amp block, so for example, if you've chosen a custom preamp boost, for example, if I take a CC boost here, for example, let's take a different value, we'll set this to on, and we'll save this test preset. There's no cab, but that's not needed in this example. And maybe you've changed some other settings, you know, in here as well. For example, you've changed the power tubes and things like that. I'm just doing this for an example. And this is with the 5153 red. And then maybe some other settings that you changed just to tweak further to your liking. And most of the time, I think maybe for most users, these are sort of things outside of maybe the preamp boost that you're probably not going to touch and mess with. So to do this, we'll head to presets. You click the Manage Preset button, and we'll right-click on the preset that we want to reset the amp block on. And you can do this for multiple presets if you want. The same thing applies, so you can select multiple presets. I'm holding Shift, select loads of presets, right-click and reset amp blocks. But in this case, I'm just gonna reset the amp block on the one preset. And then you right-click, reset amp blocks. It's gonna reset it. And you don't have to save it. You then close it, and then it will rescan per se, and you'll notice that the actual EQ knobs and all that hasn't changed, but if we go to the preamp tab, it's reset this as well. So this is something that you'll have to reset, for example. And if you're using, say, custom speaker impedance curves and things like that, that's something you'll also have to reset. However, the thing here is that there's a lot of other settings that you wouldn't see, and that's what's really been updated. So when you're installing a new firmware, especially with considerable new amp modeling updates, this is something that I would heartily recommend doing to get the most out of the new firmware that's on the unit. Now, if you really like the sound of your presets, you don't have to reset the amp blocks. Maybe, you know, the sound of, you know, the new firmware is updated and the preset as is already sounds amazing to you. So what you can do is, if you want to test to hear like the difference and retweak, what you can do is save the preset, you know, to a new block. So save a copy. We'll just save a copy there. There you go. And then the same procedure applies. So you hit presets, we're in the copy of that. You hit manage, right click, reset amp blocks on that. You close that, and then on the new preset, you'll see how it sounds, how it feels, and things like that, and then you can mess around with that. So hopefully that was useful. I know it's maybe a fairly straightforward process, but I figured I'd do a video on that because I think there are a lot of maybe newer users to the FM3 are wondering about doing firmware updates, the best way of doing that, and also might not know about the resetting the amp blocks. And I'll leave a link to a forum post on resetting amp blocks in the Fractal Audio forum. And I highly suggest you have a look at that if you're worrying about more information on the process. So thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Take care.